So, Pennsylvania looks like it's on the fast track to legalization of herb, but the model that's being approved will put the government in full control of the plant, and according to the polls, that's not what the people want.
Negotiations over Pennsylvania's state budget are ongoing. Governor Josh Shapiro wants legalization to be a part of it. So do some lawmakers from both sides of the political aisle. Our Mackenzie Jarrell joins us live with more on the efforts to legalize recreational in Pennsylvania. Mackenzie.
Mallory, this is a divided subject. Some are for legalization where others are not. I spoke with a state representative behind a bipartisan bill that would make adult use cannabis legal if signed into law.
Everybody is recognizing that legalizing is not an if question anymore, it's a when and a how.
That's what Democratic State Representative Emily Kincaid says. She, alongside Republican State Rep Abby Major, proposed legislation that would legalize adult use.
So it's largely similar to the bill that I introduced last session with Representative Coffer, but it includes some updates from stakeholders.
This new legislation aims to establish a regulated market in PA while prioritizing public safety, public health.
And we are seeing more and more drugs on the illicit market, not just cannabis or not just opioids that are laced with fentanyl and other drugs that are not what people think that they are buying. So legalizing cannabis allows us the ability to tell people what it is that they are buying and that they can rely on that.
And potentially boost the economy.
I mean, we need more revenue streams. This legalization could create upwards of 30,000 jobs and good, like, family-sustaining jobs.
While some support this,
I don't see a problem with it. I think people are doing it anyway, and hell, it's already like legal to a certain extent if you have like a marijuana card and things like that. So I mean, might as well just make it legal all the way around. I don't see
others not so much.
Definitely on the fence. I think my views over the past year have changed about substance use. All substances, legal or illegal, can be abused.
I absolutely believe marijuana is a gateway drug. Again, I think for certain people it may not be, but how do you take the chance with that?
There's a number of proposals out there. This legislation with Representative Major is really just trying to make sure that we have all of the pieces of the narrative available when we're really seriously talking about how do we legalize in Pennsylvania.
This bipartisan bill has not yet been submitted for introduction. In the studio, Mackenzie Jarrell, ABC 27 News.
So it's clear that over in Pennsylvania, it's not a question of if, but rather when. It literally feels like it's only a matter of time. And things are starting to pick up pace and speed up right now, because that clip that you guys saw was only a couple weeks old. But since then, those bills have actually made a lot of progress. As you guys can see, according to this article, the Pennsylvania lawmakers approve a bill to legalize herb just one day after it was introduced. And I quote, "A House committee has already approved the measure with the floor consideration now expected imminently in the face of criticism about how fast the proposal is advancing."
Governor Shapiro asked for it in his budget. Advocates have been seeking it for years, and today, a bill to legalize recreational moved in the state house. It would raise money for PA and expunge criminal records. But as Dennis Owens reports, its chances of getting to the governor's desk aren't very high.
Pennsylvanians are using cannabis. We got to be honest about that.
Philly Rep. Rick Krajewski's House Bill 1200 is the clock striking midnight on recreational marijuana. An actual bill is now moving. It would privatize growing, processing, and transporting, but give the Liquor Control Board oversight. Opportunities for big business, Krajewski says, with carve-outs for the little guy.
So think of something like a coffee shop, a consumption lounge, things like that, where people can purchase and consume small amounts of cannabis.
I think it will be the downfall of society. The idea that we're doing it to increase revenue is ridiculous.
Republican Charity Grim Krupa says for every dollar the state would make, it would spend several more fixing societal ills like addiction, DUI, and lost productivity.
Kozarowski.
Yeah.
Twardzik.
Just say no.
But 1200 passed out of committee, 14-12 on a straight party line vote, even though members just got the 173-page bill Sunday night.
I mean, this wasn't a hearing. It was an opportunity to rubber stamp this legislation through and push it through to committee vote, House vote this week.
Adult use cannabis likely passes the House, which Democrats control. It likely goes nowhere in the Senate, which Republicans control. but intoxicating to Krajewski. His bill may be the first step in a much longer journey.
And that's how the negotiation process starts, right? You send something over, we talk, we figure out what makes sense, you come back, rinse, repeat. It's negotiating 101. You can't talk if you don't have something to discuss.
So obviously it's a lot of politics when it comes to legalization. Even in a place like Pennsylvania, the House may approve something, the Senate may not like it. Or the House may approve something, the Senate may agree, and then the governor vetoes it. But in this particular situation, we already know that if it gets to the governor's desk, he is likely to sign it. Governor Josh Shapiro has signaled his support of legalization in the past, and we'll get into that. But before we do, just a quick reminder, guys, if you're getting value from this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And if you want to support us further, join the ICANN VIP Bean Club, or just buy us a cup of coffee. Now, you guys would have heard in that clip some of the crazy statements that Republican was making when it came to the good plan. Things like it'll decrease productivity and increase crime, when there's actually stats that show that violent crime actually is reduced in places that have legalization. And also, I'm not really sure whether there's any direct link between reduced productivity and the good plan. Now, that being said, while a lot of Republicans and conservatives are not necessarily aligned with legalization, that's not always the case, because in this case, Senator Mike Regan, a couple of years ago, who is a Republican, actually planned to introduce a legalization bill in Pennsylvania. Have a look.
A state lawmaker from the Susquehanna Valley says he plans to introduce a bill legalizing adult use marijuana. Senator Mike Regan says, as a former U.S. Marshal, he knows the seriousness of drug use. However, he says there has been a significant decline in arrests and prosecutions for personal use of marijuana. He says law enforcement doesn't have the time or the manpower to handle minor marijuana offenses. They should instead be investigating violent criminals and large-scale drug importers dealing in heroin and fentanyl. He also says he wants to make sure Pennsylvanians receive their fair share from the sale of adult use marijuana. Regan is the second Republican to propose legalizing marijuana.
So it's not always just about Republicans and conservatives or Democrats and liberals. Usually it's a lot more politics behind it. And you usually have to follow where the money goes, where the donors are coming from, and that'll give you a clearer picture as to what you're looking for. Now, in this particular situation over in Pennsylvania, lawmakers are actually clashing over legalization amid the governor's budget goal. Have a look.
Many Pennsylvanians want recreational and many don't.
Well, the same is true in the state legislature. Many are for it, many are against. So is this going to happen or not? As Dennis Owens found, it depends on who you ask.
Send to my desk a bill that legalizes adult use.
In his budget, Governor Shapiro wants legalized marijuana. In budget hearings, state police have to defend it, at times uncomfortably.
Recreational marijuana was legal in Pennsylvania. Would you allow your troopers to utilize it?
I would say at this point, no, we do not allow them to use medical marijuana as well.
And at this point, legalized weed is a no-go, insists Appropriations Chairman Scott Martin.
I don't see that issue going anywhere with my Senate Republican caucus, and for many different reasons.
He ticks them off. Increased DUIs, no testing like a breathalyzer for troopers who suspect impairment, and workplace issues.
How long or what levels of THC can be in someone's system before they're able to operate a forklift or drive a school bus?
I think it'll happen this year. I do. I don't have a crystal ball on this stuff, but I think it will.
Democrat Sharif Street is a big supporter and says so are most Pennsylvanians and most of PA's neighboring states.
And guess what? We need money. Pennsylvania needs revenue. And why should we let people in New Jersey, New York, and Ohio get our revenue from our citizens who are buying it over there?
The governor's budget wants marijuana legalized by July 1st, implemented by January 1st. And Republicans argue, project revenues that are just way too high.
You're saying that you're going to have this all done and it's going to generate $500+ million to spend this year. I don't see that happening. Nothing moves at that fast with state government, not even close.
It's important to note that often hard no's in February then become maybes and okay by the time the budget is done June 30th. We'll see.
So it's a lot of politics when it comes to legalization, even over in Pennsylvania. But that's not the only problem with this current bill. This current bill will put all the control in the hands of the government, and only the state will be able to sell the good plant. So that means a ton of state-run stores and no private mom-and-pop shops. And that's exactly what's broken down in this article titled "Pennsylvania Lawmakers File a Bill to Legalize Sales Through a System of State-Run Stores." Now, while a lot of people are for legalization, a lot of people are not in favor of this this model. Under the bill, and I quote, adults 21 and older will be able to legally possess and buy herb from stores licensed and operated by the Liquor Control Board, or LCB, which currently controls alcohol sales in the state. So the same body which controls alcohol will be controlling those sales for the good plant. And the article goes on to say, and I quote, for what it's worth, a recent poll found that the Pennsylvania voters say they favor a model where cannabis is sold by licensed private businesses rather than through a system of state-run stores. So it seems that a lot of people in Pennsylvania will prefer private stores, some of those mom and pop type shops, as opposed to a state-run model. Because I mean, who wants big corp McDonald's but anyway, right? Now we're going to have a look at what Governor Josh Shapiro and residents in Pennsylvania have to say about this whole thing. But before we do, let's have a look at what the big holdup was back when Pennsylvania legalized medical about 9 years back.
At the state capitol today, lawmakers canceled a vote that could have put the medical marijuana bill on the governor's desk for his signature. News 8's Matt Barcaro explains what's holding up the bill.
Advocates for medical marijuana again met at the state capitol, part of their final lobbying push. But the vote they were expecting never happened.
Every second that goes by feels like torture.
State senators are still analyzing the bill the House passed almost 3 weeks ago that would legalize medical marijuana in Pennsylvania. The state Senate had already approved its own version, and the two bills do not match up.
One potential problem with the House version of the bill is whether patients would still be able to take medical marijuana if their doctor lost his license.
Another concern is the House bill does not make clear if patients can get more than one 60-day supply of the drug. Senate Democrats, though, now want to pass that version, even with its flaws, fearful the House would not approve any more changes.
Hearing this speculation, and oftentimes where there's smoke, there's fire. So I think it may be in our best course to move the bill forward.
There's always going to be changes that need to be made, but the quicker we can get patients protected right now, the better off a lot of them will be.
So you guys can see how political things could get, even when it comes to legalization, whether it's medical or recreational. There's so many questions that need to be answered, and sometimes you don't have answers for those questions. And you got to go back and forth with the other side to determine what are those amendments and what are those changes going to look like. Now, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro signaled his support for legalization countless times, even back when he was AG of Pennsylvania.
General Josh Shapiro has joined Governor Tom Wolf in supporting the legalization of recreational marijuana. Just yesterday, Shapiro told KDKA's John Shumway that historically it's not something that he has supported, but today the AG says it is time to legalize the drug and expunge nonviolent marijuana convictions. His statement says, in part, continuing to criminalize adult personal marijuana use is a waste of limited law enforcement resources. It disproportionately impacts our minority communities, and it does not make.
So shout out to Josh Shapiro for taking that stance when it comes to legalization. But what about other people in Pennsylvania? Is everyone on board? Are some people not on board? Are some people 50-50? Let's hear what they have to say.
This year, the lieutenant governor hosted listening tours in all of Pennsylvania's 67 counties about this issue. The feedback resulted in this map showing how people feel about legalization. The darker the color, the greater the support. You see only one county, Fulton there, in red is mostly against it, but some local authorities are also sounding the alarms tonight. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Davis is live with that part of the story. Kimberly?
Jess, I spoke with one member of law enforcement who raised the red flags this slippery slope could possibly create. He tells me there's no technology to detect if a driver is operating their vehicle while high, and that could put people in danger. The results are in. Pennsylvania residents support legalizing recreational use of marijuana.
I'm not an active user of marijuana, but I have no problem with legalization of recreational use in small quantities.
I think if it's beneficial for some people, why not? Like Pennsylvania should be up to date with all the other states.
But Pennsylvania law enforcement does have its concerns.
From a law enforcement perspective, I think it's a bad idea. And I think that we already got one substance that we abuse daily, and that's alcohol. Now you're going to abuse marijuana.
Police Superintendent Michael Chitwood tells me legalizing any drug is a bad idea, especially if there's no way to tell if a driver is under the influence of marijuana.
All I'm asking people that want to legalize marijuana, look at the communities that already have done, and then look at the crime rates and what they're dealing with.
But those in support of recreational believe legislation will do more good for communities than harm.
As we kind of progress into the legalization, we will also have more methods on how to regulate it as well. And I think also just coming from the perspective of trying to minimize the black market and trying to get it out of the hands of teenagers and children.
The governor also wants lawmakers to come up with a bill that would decriminalize. He also wants legislators to create a bill that would expunge the records of those who were convicted of nonviolent or small cannabis crimes.
While there are some people that are still stuck in the old school way of thinking that the herb is bad, a lot of Pennsylvanians actually support legalization. And a recent poll done by CBS Philadelphia actually confirms this.
Eyewitness News continues now at 4:30.
New developments in the battle over legalizing recreational in Pennsylvania. A large majority, 66% of registered voters support legalizing recreational in Pennsylvania. That's according to a new CBS News Battleground Tracker poll. 34% do not support legalizing marijuana.
So there's a lot going on in Pennsylvania. If this bill gets to Josh Shapiro's desk, he's likely to sign it. But the problem is it has to get through the Senate before it gets to his desk. And it may not get through the Senate. So let me know what you guys think about all that. Are you in Pennsylvania? Would you like to see a state-run model or a private business-run model? Or do you just want to see legalization and it really doesn't matter? Drop it in the comments down below and let me know. But one thing I think you guys do need to see is what's happening with some of these politicians. They're panicking. They do not want legalization and they're trying to ban everything. But the people are standing up and they're letting them know that we're not for that. So check that video out because it's coming up right now.